PNG's population policy fails to address population growth. UNICEF estimates 270,000 people need immediate assistance. And Future Leaders Summit promotes women in the army.
This is the National EMTV News with Meriba Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us for Wednesday's news. The United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, or UNICEF, estimates that about 270,000 people are in need of immediate humanitarian assistance after the devastating 7.5 magnitude earthquake. Emergency Coordinator Andreas Wostenberg said UNICEF is supporting the relief efforts with health and nutrition supplies. They have also provided safe spaces for women and children.
These children are survivors of the massive earthquake that killed over 100. They are being treated at the Mount Hagen General Hospital. 5-year-old Douglas Jacob was hit in the head by falling rocks during landslides triggered by the earthquakes. Douglas survived while 11 others from his village died. Many of these children suffered trauma injuries. Manu Tony was trapped under his house when a post fell on his leg.
We're seeing a lot of children with trauma injuries, with head injuries, with crushed bones. We just met a mother here who had lost 7 of her children and her husband.
That mother is Nengai Waima. She fractured her leg as she The impacts of the earthquake are very high, as UNICEF Emergency Coordinator Andreas Wostenberg says over 200,000 are yet to receive immediate assistance. This was confirmed yesterday by Emergency Relief Controller Dr. Bill Hamblin when he said a number of affected communities are yet to receive relief supplies.
We're estimating that about 270,000 people are in need of immediate humanitarian assistance. They're in need of food, water, shelter.
As emergency supplies are being rolled out, UNICEF has been focusing on providing health and nutrition supplies.
We are providing safe spaces for children and women, and also working with the government on providing safe water and sanitation to those affected.
In the meantime, relief efforts are continuing, with both the government and its partners working in assisting the affected communities. Yesterday, the Australian government announced they will put in additional funding towards restoration programs. But for now, organizations like the UNICEF are doing what they can to assist those that are in need the most, and they are the children. Stanley Ove Jr., National EMTV News.
Discussions at the National Planning Consultative Summit in Lae have revealed how Papua New Guinea's national population policy has failed to address population growth. Some of the problems highlighted were the lack of access, understanding, and the conflicting view on contraception between government and churches.
Into its second day as the National Planning Implementation Summit in Lae continued to discuss the economic needs of Papua New Guineans, there was a stark reminder that the population growth at more than 3% per annum needed to be controlled. While population policies have been launched in previous years, it has not really stemmed the number of kids being born. On average, close to 500,000 children are born every year. The summit was told that if Papua New Guinea continues to have an economy that doesn't surpass its population growth, basic services will become seriously burdened.
We need an economy, Prime Minister, that is 10 times the size of our economy. We need to generate revenue of up to 100 billion a year.
Deputy Prime Minister Charles Abel, who has been championing population control options, says there's more awareness than before.
The policy document that I launched should be matched up with the implementation document, which is the booklet 2 in the population policy, that is more about the execution side of things, to beef up what we already started in some of the pilot projects we did through STARS.
But there are serious challenges that exist in the health system. In many rural areas, contraception and family planning are of a lesser priority than curative health. Another challenge, with the 40% of health services operated by the Catholic Church, government policy has in many instances come into conflict with the Church's views on contraception.
They've got a much more liberal thinking Pope, I believe. in some of his statements, and his attitude seems to be he's willing to accept some change in the church. And so we've had the challenges with the Catholic Church, but I think you need to look at, as I said, the human story.
Government policies on population control and the use of contraception is at times a touchy subject. Politicians realize that the dissatisfaction could potentially extend to the polling booths if the 2 million Papua New Guinean Catholics disagree with the government. The Deputy Prime Minister is confident that more engagement and a more liberal Pope will pave way for better understanding on population control. Scott Waide, National EMTV News, Lae.
Agriculture was one of the hot topics discussed today at the National Planning Consultative Summit. Market access for cash crops has been a challenge for local farmers from cooperative organizations for years. A cocoa farmer from Lower Watut Cooperative in Bulolo district said they produce over 8 tons of cocoa quarterly, but it's difficult to take them to the market because of the bad road conditions.
The farmers have a plot of land to an average of 0.37 hectares. They initiated the cooperative system in order to secure a market. For years, they've struggled with poor roads leading to the villages where cocoa is grown. The planning summit today talked about agriculture and roads, but the problems remain.
Something road belum lalu transportimol disla ol kakao. Na Arab la tu mipla like mol sampla something sem meki mo sem way lo mipla ba isita sola west na go drain na mipla wane melo close to lo house or place.
Long cocoa, they need a big warehouse. You may need him all infrastructure inside, all good plus storage beds. Maybe a forklift will help him all big like a cow long. Number of bags go inside long. This is a container. If we can have that in place, how much will it cost? Work with the executives. What will the technical officers on the ground and find the cost? Right now, when say 6 months from now, we will commission that. This workshop will be the most productive.
For the cocoa farmers, this summit must address long-term needs, but there are significant challenges also facing the Works Department. The presentations also drew strong reaction from Menyamia MP Thomas Pelika.
You planners, you people in Waigani, I want to make sure that the money going down there, strengthen your monitoring and evaluating. Go and check the money is going to the right purpose or not.
The Secretary for Works, David Were, said during his presentation today that road maintenance alone would cost 35 million kina per year. The inadequate funds for road maintenance has led to the difficulties in fixing roads. Were says if these problems are not addressed, PNG's road system could collapse.
We are looking at how we can forge a strong partnership with our DDAs and provincial governments on how best we can utilize these facilities and these equipments in the provinces, so we reduce on some of the costs in maintaining our roads.
The Director for Institute of National Research, Paul Baka, says it requires the government, civil societies and private sector approach to improve developments.
Government shouldn't try to do everything. It shouldn't be trying to invest its capital in this, that and the other when it's the core function is to produce quality roads, decent access to communities that otherwise can't get their produce to market at all.
Julie Badui Owa, National EMTV News, Lae.
Classes at Ekivaki Primary School in the Port Moresby Northwest Electorate have been suspended following a health inspection on March the 8th. A closure notice was delivered to the school principal last Thursday, informing the school administration that the learning environment was not conducive for students. The inspection found that the toilet and classroom facilities had deteriorated and the school lacked a clean water supply. The suspension remains for an indefinite period. Promoting the role of women in security forces is an agenda that is being discussed in the 2018 Future Leaders Summit. Chief of Australian Defence Force Air Chief Marshal Binskin says the increase in women participation in security forces creates a flexible workforce. His comments were supported by the PNGDF Commander and Commissioner of the Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary.
more flexible.
Increasing the participation of women in disciplinary forces is one of the desired outcomes of the biannual Future Leaders Summit. PNG Defence Force Commander Gilbert Toropo announced his support for women soldiers, highlighting the significant roles women can play in the PNG DF.
The summit also sought to promote the professional development of women in our security forces, with the role of women being highlighted in peace and security, and I'm very pleased that this important topic again given some prominence in the summit.
Since the establishment of PNG DF, there were only male soldiers until 2011, when the first batch of women soldiers were recruited. PNG DF now has close to 300 women soldiers and naval officers. For the RPNGC, the figures are slightly higher. From the estimated 6,000 police officers, 700 are women.
We recognise that increased female participation in the ADF is vital to improving our capability and our operational effectiveness into the future. In that regard, I'm pleased to see the gender balance in the room at the moment. I would urge that nations use this summit to grow a better understanding of the critical role that women, peace and security play in increasing stability in the region, and we look to increase the number of women in these forums into the future.
Chief of Australian Defence Force Marshall Binskins said the Australian Civil Military Centre promotes women participation in conflicts and the restoration of peace and security.
The resolution highlights the important role of women in prevention and resolution of conflicts, humanitarian responses and peace building. It also demonstrates the need to actively encourage women to participate and to incorporate gender perspectives in all peace and security efforts.
In promoting roles of women in disciplinary forces, female officers in RPNGC are taking the front lines in providing security for wives of the 21 world leaders who will be attending the APEC Summit in November. Tekla Gunga, National MTV News.
Here with National MTV News, we go for a break now. When we come back, more of the day's top stories. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. The East New Britain Police have revealed that they made over 200,000 kina from random roadblocks alone in 2017. Provincial Police Commander Senior Inspector Joseph Tabali says a total of 270,000 kina was collected, mostly from unregistered vehicles and others in breach of traffic rules. Edwin Fidelis reports from Kokopo.
Police operations in East New Britain Province in 2017 weren't different from previous years, but last year alone the police made a noticeable achievement. Random roadblocks targeting drink driving, unregistered vehicles, non-renewed driver's licenses and vehicle impounds have generated over 200,000 kina. Today, the police boss Senior Inspector Joseph Tabali confirmed that they have contributed a significant amount of revenue, both to the East New Britain Provincial Government and the Police Department.
For the Police Department, we made 140,797 kina for the last year, 2017. And for the Land Transport Board, the combined roadblock, Land Transport Board with the police, we made but the figure is 270,000 for the last year, 2017.
The East New Britain Police don't have much say over how this money is to be used. Instead, all the money goes to the Police Department in Port Moresby and the East New Britain Provincial Government coffers. But despite the hefty amount of money they made, the police boss revealed his men are still struggling to utilize the limited resources they have.
We're looking at my fleet of vehicles in the province, especially the traffic units. I think I need another one or two vehicles to boost the performance of my traffic members in Kokopo.
Tabali says this year will yet again be another tough one for his men, who will continue cracking down on drivers and vehicle owners who breach traffic rules. Edwin Fidelis, National MTV News, Kokopo.
The National Development Bank's Managing Director, Moses Liu, says inadequate funding remains a constraint in the growth of SMEs in the country. The NDB has approved over 30,000 loans to small to medium enterprises around the country over the past 8 years. The demand for SME loans has been increasing at an average of 20% each year. However, inadequate funding has resulted in over 300 million kina worth of approved SME loans not being funded.
From the 30,000 SME loans approved over the past 8 years, between 10 to 12,000 are currently operating. Managing Director of the National Development Bank, Moses Liu, said one of the problems faced in sustaining PNG SMEs is the lack of management and financial literacy.
So there needs to be a proper management skills in running the small businesses. And I think it calls for some form of an investment on their part as well.
Since 2009, the number of SMEs in the country have grown at an average of 20% annually. Secretary for National Planning Hakawa Harry says despite a growing number of SMEs, the impact on the economy is limited.
We need to get financial inclusion kind of programs that can be able to build the capacity to contribute more into the economy.
Funding remains a constraint towards the growth of SMEs. Due to the inadequate funding, 350 million kina worth of approved SME loans have not been funded.
We've been able to fund as much as we can, but there's a limit to it that we cannot fund every loan because of the grants coming from the government.
In order to address this problem, the NDB has recommended that the government maintain its funding to the institution and establish credit guarantee schemes.
And there's a two-part to the funding that's coming through, 50 million for general SMEs and 50 million for the agricultural SMEs. So now a lot of our people have got the opportunity to obtain loan from the bank to start and grow the small businesses.
Lucy Kopana, National EMTV News, Leh.
PNG Forest Authority management and employees today celebrated the International Day of Forests. This day commemorates and raises awareness of the importance of all types of forests. In celebrating, they also began preparations for a revamp of the headquarters, which has been around since the 1970s.
Since the United Nations General Assembly in November 2012, PNG Forest Authority has made March 21st a day to remember since 2014. This morning, directors, management and staff of PNGFA gathered to commemorate the International Day of Forests. Acting Managing Director Karo Mau informed everyone that in celebration, they would also begin preparations for the redesigning of the PNGFA headquarters' entire boundary.
Prune some trees, cut others, and generally clean out our front yard in preparation for the landscape designers.
Minister for Forests Douglas Tomuriesa said that the forestry sector makes 1.4 billion for the country's economy every year.
Stop destroying the forest. But what options do we have? What other alternate do we have if we stop logging? And I know very recently we had a meeting on the REDD Plus issues that we're having in this country. And my challenge that goes out to a lot of our friends who want us to conserve the forest. And I'm one who wants to see the forest conserved. And I know a lot of you have the dream, you have the drive to see the forest conserved.
Manager for tree plantations, Francis Villamore, told MTV News that PNGFA is taking a new approach with the Operation Painim Ground Planim DY to achieve the 2050 goals set by the national government.
We have to carry out awareness on the importance of plantation development, importance of forest. We have to go back to the people, make awareness, and the people must understand what we are trying to do. And then, as long as they can understand what we are trying to do, then they can unlock their unused land for such purposes.
It is not only foresters, it's not only our duty to make certain that we conserve forest, to protect the forest. It is everyone's duty.
Lilian Sopera Kinea, National EMTV News.
PNG Power has been urged to expand its operations and to pay dividends to the government. PNG Power is a state-owned entity under Kumul Consolidated Holdings. Paul Nera, chairman of Kumul Consolidated Holdings, impressed on the new board members of PNG Power to find innovative ways to grow the business.
PNG Power swore in their board members, including Acting Managing Director Caroline Blacklock, the new Chairman Peter Nupiri, and Maureen Mori.
That I will uphold the Constitution and the laws of Papua New Guinea. So help me God.
Chairman of Kumul Consolidated Holding, Paul Nero, issued a stern statement to expand and meet the government's target of 70% of the country having access to electricity and for them to pay their dividends.
You know, we have a policy that states by 2030, 70% of Papua New Guinea is to be lit up.
Chairman for PNG Power, Peter Nupiri, said there is a reason why the government of the day keeps changing boards, and he is committed to push PNG Power to start paying dividends.
That's a significant question for all of us to sort of ponder and see why we keep changing that, because obviously there's something not right in the organization, isn't it? And so we keep making those changes, and so the government continues to do so in order to ensure that we continue to provide the service that we are expected to provide for this nation, and that is as a utility company to provide power for the people of the country. So obviously we've got a lot of work to do.
Acting Managing Director Caroline Blacklock said PNG Power is committed to getting power to the rest of the nation, and also added ways the government can help the expansion by cutting down the tariff tax per kilowatts by half.
Institution that currently is struggling to win community trust due to unreliability and a poor track record of governance. But the good news is aplenty. We have a product that is much needed and wanted, electricity. The bulk of our people to afford power. I estimate a lowering of the tariff of at half at least will be required in the medium term. Let's call this need for a tariff reduction just an added motivation to change the way we do business at PNG Power to ensure we play our critical role of underpinning social development and economic growth in our country.
PNG Power also has another issue that is hindering the company: illegal connections and theft of electricity.
It's growing at 2.1%. We have obviously much more to do. At present, 25% of all power is sold for free, which is my new tagline, or stolen. It is not possible to undertake an accelerated electrification program with this stone hanging around our neck.
Please, do your jobs with passion and with a sense of responsibility to delivering power to the people of this country.
Adelaide Xerox Kari, National EMTV News.
The development of the Wafi Golpu project is one step closer, with the project developers submitting an updated project feasibility study to government. Mining Minister Johnson Tuke and Treasurer Charles Abel were on hand to receive the study from project developers this week. This feasibility study update forms part of a revised proposal for development supporting its special mining lease application. Wafi Golpu Project joint venture partners Newcrest and Harmony Gold this week presented an updated feasibility study to the government. This study, submitted to the Mineral Resource Authority, sets out an improved business case for the project to go ahead, with an emphasis on key areas including technical, safety, environmental, social and legal aspects.
Today also we submitted that study to the MRA so that they can consider the proposal for development, and is the first step, or the major step in terms of the permitting process for the project. And once we get our permits in place, then we can talk to our boards about investing in the project moving forward.
The report was received by Mining Minister Johnson Tuke and Treasurer Charles Abel. According to Minister Tuke, the submission of the updated study was welcomed by government, as the Wafi Golpu project was identified as a key economic project for the country.
As we all know, this is one project where our government has been talking too much on it. And about this time in the morning, we received the amendment feasibility studies. It is now before us at MRA to assess and vet it and make sure and make certain that it is compliant to our norm of conducting mining in this country.
His sentiments shared by Treasurer Charles Abel.
It's included in the 25-point plan, reaching the 100-day plan, 25-point plan of government. And it is a major project in the mineral sector. And together with the expansion of the PNG LNG project, the Papua LNG project, and the Wafi-Golpu are the three major, very important projects on the near horizon.
Minister Abel also expressed confidence in the ability of state actors to ensure that the project fulfilled regulatory requirements.
We want to continue to work with the respective partners in the project, Harmony and Newcrest, to make sure that we expedite as much as possible the project for the benefit of Papua New Guinea, and this comes back to obviously the important fiscal terms and conditions that and other matters, environmental concerns and so on, that the due process is underway. But we're just happy to see additional information coming out with regards to progressing that project.
If approved, the Wafi-Golpu project would be the largest, deepest and most complex mine in the country, with a projected mine life of 28 years.
The project itself has got some fairly substantial benefits for PNG, for the proponents and also for the local landowners around the Wafi-Golpu area. And you know, the project capital's over 9 billion kina of spend, and it creates about 2,500 jobs on average across the duration of the construction period. So large employer, and then there's about 850 jobs long term in the operation of the mine. So with those, with that employment, with the secondary employment that comes with the activity of the mine, there's a huge economic benefit by building a mine like this in Morobe, and we'll see this for many years to come.
Here with National EMTV News, we go for a break and be back with more after these messages. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. A murder trial involving a woman from Central Province accused of killing her husband will commence tomorrow. Teresa Matthew from Minaru village in the Goilala district made a brief appearance at the National Court in Port Moresby. She is accused of murdering her husband, Kasman Koma, in 2015 following an argument.
2 years and 3 months have passed since the alleged incident occurred, and the case is now ready for trial. It will be held at the Bomana Courthouse before Justice Panuel Mogis. The court heard today that on the night of November 9th in 2015, Kasmas Koma returned to their Konidobu house. He was hungry and asked if the dinner was prepared, but learned that the money he had given the accused was used to purchase homebrew. Out of frustration, Koma assaulted his wife, but because he was an asthmatic patient, he stopped to catch his breath. Teresa Matthew, the accused, then grabbed a knife and cut her husband's face before stabbing him in the left chest. He was rushed to the Port Moresby General Hospital and later died. From medical reports presented in court, the cause of death was a 2-centimeter knife wound to his heart. But the accused, Teresa Matthew, denied the allegation. She told the court through an interpreter the allegations were false. 2 eyewitnesses, both the daughter of the accused and the deceased, are expected to testify in court tomorrow. Thakla Gunga, National EMTV News.
TradeLink International has joined in providing medical supplies and equipment to Hela and Southern Highlands provinces as part of disaster relief efforts. Much needed medical supplies and equipment worth about 158,000 kina were presented to Hela Provincial Health Authority and the Catholic Health Services today in Port Moresby.
Since the earthquake occurred on the 26th of February, TradeLink International has been putting its thought process to identify appropriate relief assistance for the 2 most affected areas of Southern Highlands and Hela Province. Through the process, Hela Provincial Health Authority and Catholic Health Services under the Diocese of Mendi has been identified as the two service providers to extend the relief assistance.
Ari Provincial Health Authority is being assisted with essential antibiotics, pain relievers and wound care products to the value of 78,000 kina. And the Catholic Health Service under Diocese of Mendi is being assisted with essential equipments and instruments needed to re-functionalize its 34 health facilities, health centers, urban clinic, 8 post, day clinic and VCT center. Apart from these equipments, the package also includes essential antibiotics and pain relievers. The total value of this package is around 81,000 kina.
TradeLink said the struggle of the people in the affected areas are unimaginable and that it hopes other business houses also join in to provide assistance.
We understand their needs are far too great than the assistance we are providing.
The donation today was welcomed by the representatives of the two provinces because receiving basic health supplies to these provinces had always been a struggle even before the earthquake.
Most of the times we don't have medical supplies and all this, and when we were hit by this disaster, we were not able to get some of the things we need to provide care to the people that are affected.
Corporate Services Director for Hela Provincial Authority, Elizabeth Boyd, says support from donor partners such as TradeLinks has helped a lot in managing the situation, which would have been disastrous if there was no assistance from the public and private partners.
Organisations like TradeLink and a lot of these donor development partners that have actually come on board and stood behind the health team and the provincial government teams during this time of disaster that has made a really significant impact. I know for Hela.
Stacey Yallo, National MTV News.
Turning overseas now, and in Australia, heavy rain and huge swells are hammering Newcastle, with flash flooding closing some roads. Extra crews have been deployed to the area.
The rain hasn't stopped all day here in Dungog. It's been consistently falling and water has been rising here. It's flooding the park and spreading across the road. In other areas, it's even higher, lapping on people's front fences, covering their yards. And residents are concerned, but they are also prepared. They've cleared their sheds and others have sandbagged parts of their property.
We're the lowest point, so we, in the end of it, cop a lot of water which runs through our property.
There is a severe weather warning for heavy rainfall over Newcastle, the Hunter and the mid-north coast. Thunderstorms will continue to roll through these areas throughout the day and may cause flash flooding.
It might not just be one system, but a series of storms that all hit the same spot in a row, which can accumulate those rainfall totals.
SES crews from South Sydney have headed up north to help out with the workload.
We've had people out there providing assistance to the community with sandbags and sandbagging in those low-lying areas that might be affected by flooding.
Conditions nowhere near as severe in Sydney, but gusty winds did cause some damage. The persistent rain is expected to last a couple of days.
Here with Wednesday's news, we go for a break now. When we come back, some sporting updates in Trukai Sports.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. We begin with Rugby League, and this weekend's Intrust Super Cup match will be a grand final rematch between the SPPNG Hunters and the Sunshine Coast Falcons. Hunters coach Michael Marum has made a few changes to this weekend's team.
Stagroth Amin has been named in the fullback position, with Adex Wera moved to his accustomed role at centre. Coach Michael Marum will be depending on Amin to lead the backline in this weekend's clash.
Came off the bench last weekend, went straight, played fullback there, so Adex had to move to centres. So that is hopefully he completes a full game this time around, and he's one of the players we're looking up on to make sure lead the boys and talk more from the back there. So yeah.
The Hunters will be facing the Sunshine Coast Falcons. They've only won one game in Sunshine Coast since 2014 and will be hoping to better that record on Sunday. The Falcons have a fairly new and young team. and Marum says will be difficult to beat this weekend.
We're out there to make sure we get the 2 points too. So it's going to be tough. They've done a lot of changes to their lineup. You know, a lot of their boys from last year are no longer there. So, they've got the young team again. So all we want is our players going out there and making sure they're giving us that 100% there.
This week they will be brushing up on their defense and other game plan executions. There are a few minor injuries on some players, but Marum says they will be ready for the match. Adam Korave, who was not part of yesterday's training session, suffered a concussion in last weekend's game. Enoch Maki will be out for another 2 weeks before he can be cleared to play.
Adam Korave got concussed after the match, so we haven't got the clearance from QRL and also our team doctor, so he can't. He wasn't allowed to train today, and we can't name him. So it's just following rules from the QRL there. Maki, he's got another 2 weeks. He started training. He hasn't done contact, so we don't want to rush him back in. So again, if he comes back full training, he needs to pass fitness before we decide to play him.
The final 18-man travelling squad will be named on Friday. The team leaves for Brisbane on Saturday for the Sunday game at 3 p.m. at Sunshine Coast Stadium. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
Still on the Hunters, Brendan Gotuno will be Hunter number 60 when he runs on this weekend on the wing. He has been named by coach Michael Marum in the starting lineup, replacing Butler Morris.
The 22-year-old from a mixed parentage of East New Britain and Simbu just started playing rugby league with the Port Moresby Vipers 3 years ago. He says it's a dream come true for him to be named in the Hunters starting lineup.
In 2015 I played for Port Moresby Vipers, played with them for almost 3 years, and then I got selected to PM13, and then I'm fortunate enough to be with the Hunters pre-season. It's a dream come true to play both, representing my country at this stage, and it's a dream come true, and I'm looking forward to it.
He switched from AFL to rugby league. He represented PNG playing for the Mosquitoes in 2014, where they went on to win the International Cup. Gotuno says switching from AFL to rugby league has given him the flexibility to play in the backline.
Growing up playing AFL, represented AFL in junior footy, and then to the senior level Mosquitoes in 2014, and then switched to AFL rugby in 2015, and especially flexibility to move around in position, playing fullback, wing, halves.
He will be graduating with a degree in psychology from the University of Papua New Guinea on the 20th of April. He played in the trial match against the Brisbane Broncos and was versatile in the backline. Though he was nervous, he says it was a great experience.
To be honest, I was nervous at first, but with the help of the senior boss, especially the boys who took part in the grand final last year and the Commonwealth's recent World Cup, they gave me strength to play against the giant. And
being named in the starting team has motivated him to play and train harder.
There are a lot of good players still out on the bench, and to be the first selected to play on the wing, it gives me a challenge to play hard and work hard on the wing and give my best.
Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
To football now, and the National Soccer League champions Toti City Dwellers still maintain a comfortable lead with 21 points on the ladder after round 8. Rivals Medang FC and Morbe Womans registered 4 wins each and are currently separated by a point on the ladder.
Dwellers' undefeated run in the country's top domestic league competition ensured the 3-time NSL champions a good build-up towards the OFC Champions League quarter-final berth in Wellington next month.
Straight to Devon Yaba. Oh, and a block just at the last, I think.
The Peter Gunamba coach side boasts 7 wins in 7 games, scoring an immense total of 36 goals, amounting to 21 points in the process, and conceded only 10 goals after round 8. Dwellers' stats were far greater than near rivals Medang, still holding out the second spot on the ladder with 4 wins, 2 losses and a draw in 7 matches, whilst newcomers FC Morbe Wowens has so far proven to be a force in the big league, tailing regular season campaigners on 3rd place. Meanwhile, the youthful Besta PNG United wrapped up the top 4 with 3 wins and 2 losses after 5 matches, meaning Besta still have 2 washout matches to be played that will determine the final standing on the points ladder. Having suffered 4 losses and 1 win apiece, both the Port Moresby-based franchise, FC Mombasa and Southern Strikers have a lot to prove in the remainder of the competition. Finally, wrapping up the bottom 7 is Buang FC, still fighting to register a point after going through 5 winless matches. Shane Saroya, National EMTV Sports.
And we'll have more of Trukai Sports after these messages. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To cricket now, and it's only 3 months before the CPL PNG Lewis make their appearance at the ICC Women's T20 World Cup qualifier in the Netherlands. And the Barramundi's recent relinquishing of the ODI status last week came as a reminder that there is more at stake.
Unlike the national men's team, the Lewis are yet to gain ODI status, and that is one of the main agendas heading into the T20 World Cup qualifiers and hopefully the World Cup. Despite maintaining the top spot in the region in the last few years, the Lewis are yet to make a breakthrough at the qualifiers. And now with the help of former Barramundi and current coach Raru Adikana, the Lewis fitness level has gone through the roof in the last 3 months. They are now in the final leg of preparations.
The Lewis will be going to train at in Goroka for a few days, and also on our way to the Netherlands we'll be stopping off in Brisbane for a couple of days to play in the High Performance Centre in Brisbane. And we'll actually be in the Netherlands for about a week prior to the start of the T20 tournament, and we've got a few games there.
Cricket PNG CEO Greg Campbell says the Lewis are expected to fare well given the leveled playing field they are at in their pool, though Bangladesh will be a tough one for them.
Well, they're going up against Bangladesh, and Bangladesh are a full member, as you know, and the women have played in World Cup, so that'll be a hard game. We have Netherlands in our pool, which we played Netherlands quite a lot over the last couple of years and had some success against them. And we have Thailand, who have improved. Thailand are an improving country, so that's in our pool. So we only got to finish 1-2 in that pool, and then they'll play the finals and go over. So the competition is very even, and we expect our girls to perform very well. And
meanwhile, the national women's team will be seeing some developments later this year as Cricket PNG looks to give more opportunities to women in cricket.
The Cricket PNG board has actually agreed to increase the number of women on playing contracts.
Dinarose Raiko, National EMTV Sports.
And that's it for Trukai Sports. We'll go for a break now. When we come back, the weather details for the next 24 hours.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
I'll look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours. In the southern region, cloudy with some showers expected for Port Moresby. To the Mombasa region, mostly fine for Madang and Wewak. To the New Guinea Islands region, showers expected in Kimbe and Buka. And in the Highlands region, fog clearing for Mount Hagen.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And to end the news, a recap of our top stories this evening. Discussions reveal PNG's population policy fails to control population growth. Ekivaki Primary School closed indefinitely due to unhygienic conditions at the school. And UNICEF estimates 270,000 people still in need of humanitarian aid. And that's the news, sport and weather for today, Wednesday, the 21st of March 2018. On behalf of the EMTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.